welcome back from atop the wall. My name is Mason Allen Knopp, and today I have another deck for you. I'm once again doing the 5-color Enchantments control deck, but this time I'm doing something a little different. I've actually skewed the deck to resemble the Astrolabe deck that existed in the format before it got banned. This deck is playing a very similar game to them. We have a lot of the same creatures. We have a lot of the same roles filled. Our Abundant Growth, the deck's key card to winning. Oh, I love this card. I've loved it since I started the game, and now I get to destroy the game with it. Get ready, Legacy Light. We're coming for you. I want to quickly go over the deck, just touch down on it again for the people who haven't seen the deck before. 4 Core Sanctifiers and the 2 Dreamstalkers. They both say return a permanent you control to its owner's hand when they enter the battlefield. So we choose an Abundant Growth, a card that fixes us for mana, and when it enters, it draws us a card just for 1 mana. And Astrolabe was also 1 mana that drew us a card when it entered and fixed you for mana. So we can end up returning this to our hand, and we get to replay it for 1 mana, draw another card. This thins our deck a lot and gets us a lot of card advantage. As the game goes on, we find more Dreamstalkers and we find more Core Sanctifiers, and we're constantly just getting a 2-for-1, a 2-for-1, a 2-for-1, a creature and another card. And it's not just the Abundant Growth in this deck. There's also 2 Heliod's Pilgrim, a toolbox card that in this deck can choose a couple of different cards to help us throughout the game, no matter what board state that we have. It has something to go get for us that can help. And this card can go find our Abundant Growth and get that key card to help us win the game and be bounced by Core Skyfisher. So this card does work with both of them. We actually have some other creatures that go great with it. The Spellstutter Sprite can be bounced by either the Dreamstalker or the Core Skyfisher, so that way now we can counter spells and reuse this cheap counter spell. We have the Maul Drifters that can be flickered and be bounced repeatedly, so now we can just play this Maul Drifter, draw 2 cards, and start going nuts with card advantage. We have the Auramancer to get things back from the graveyard if any of our enchantments get blown up, and we can flicker this thing too. It's great. The only thing that we can't get a lot of value from flickering is the 2 Nexus Wardens, taking the place of the Seeker of the Way. This one, every time that an enchantment enters the battlefield, we gain 2 life. So against burn and a lot of aggro decks, this card is a really strong blocker for 3 mana. To keep going with the value nonsense here, we have the 2 Ephemerate. 1 white mana, you flicker a creature. And it has Rebound, so we can get even more value a second time around with it. So it's a 2-for-1. Sometimes it's a 4-for-1 if this is the Maul Drifter. We also got Angelic Renewal. If any of our creatures die, we can sacrifice this, and if we do, we return that card to the battlefield, getting its ETB back, so we punish our opponent for blowing up any of our stuff. It's amazing. Reality Acid to be a catch-all removal spell that we can recycle and reuse using Core Skyfishers and Dreamstalker. It's a very slow card, so I only wanted to put 1 in. Urban Utopia is the 5th and 6th copy of Abundant Growth that we have in the deck. We would really like it for the fixing, primarily. Our Omen of the Sea is our last big value card in the deck. So in the late game, we can end up using this and flicker this instead of our Abundant Growth with our Access Mana. And we can dig into our deck farther and essentially get a Preordain repeatedly used instead of just a draw 1 card. Instead of just a Reach Through the Mist, I believe it was. Okay, so now on to just the regular removal in this deck, the strong stuff. We have 3 Katar's Desire. It's an aura that has Enchanted Creature can't attack, and if we have Threshold, Enchanted Creature can't block. Now, Mogus's Favor against the Fairies deck and against certain token decks and certain decks like Elves, this is actually a very powerful card for us. We can end up picking off the small creatures or give our larger creatures a bigger front end and start swinging with them. So it's a good way for us to start getting ahead. We got 2 Journey to Nowhere, which for 2 mana, we get to exile target creature card, and when it leaves the battlefield, return that card to the battlefield. It's a typically conditionless removal spell. Now, Ephemerate is actually a tricky card with Journey to Nowhere. We can end up using Ephemerate to flicker our Dreamstalker or Core Skyfisher. So when we cast Journey to Nowhere, it enters the battlefield, trigger on the stack, we cast Ephemerate on Core Skyfisher flickers, and it comes in, we can return Journey to Nowhere to our hand, and we allow its trigger to resolve, exiling a creature. Just forever, ever. We have 1 exclude as an easy 2-for-1. It's played in a lot of blue decks right now. Otherwise, we have the 2 prohibits. Just 2 mana. Counter target spell if its converted mana cost is 2 or less. But if we kick it for 2 more mana, we can counter a spell with converted mana cost 4 or less instead. So we can end up starting to remove bigger things as we get more mana in the game. The last non-land card in the deck, Ancestral Mask. 3 mana, enchanted creature gets +2/+2 for each other enchantment on the battlefield. And we have 17 enchantments. Man, a 2021 Core Fisher Flyer is pretty good. I like that. I enjoy that. That seems fair. The lands for the deck. We have 20 lands, just 1 more than the Scred deck. We are heavily forest focused instead of heavily blue focused in this deck. So that way we can play our Urban Utopias and Abundant Growths as soon as possible. Otherwise, we have 1 of each of the other basic lands that we would want in our deck, minus the mountains. So we have 4 Ash Barrens and 1 Evolving Wilds to go find all of these. The Tranquil Thicket is just in case we start to flood. We can have this green source earlier in the game, then pick it back up later with Azura's Chancellery and cycle it, or we can just cycle it later in the game when we find it and we don't want it. Get rid of it. Right, and on to the sideboard. Increasing face. Face perfect. What are we afraid of? What are we afraid of? Nothing. We afraid of nothing. Unless it's Boggles. We have Calming Verse for Boggles. It has 3 mana, destroy all enchantments you don't control. Then, if you control an untapped land, destroy all enchantments you control. So, as long as we tap out for this, we're fine. We have 1 Shamana's Blessing against the removal heavy decks in the format. Really good in the mono-colored matchups, particularly mono-blue Fairies matchups. 1 Dispel for counter spell matchups and other control deck matchups. We have 2 Electricity for tokens, Elves, the Boros tokens. God, the Boros tokens, my gosh. Gorilla Shaman is a good card against Affinity. By just paying the 1 mana, we can end up just destroying one of their artifact lands, pick off a bunch of their artifact lands, start paying more mana to destroy their larger artifacts. We have 3 Hydroblast and 3 Pyroblast for the Delver matchups and for any of the other colored matchups. We got 1 Lifelink for Burn, which we can find with the Heliod's Pilgrim. And we have 2 Relic of Progenitus, which are amazing against Tron and the Graveyard matchups. If you would like to see gameplay of this deck, I am going to be playing this deck against the Pauper guy a little bit later this week, hopefully. And I'm going to update you guys and make sure that you guys get the chance to see this. I'll be putting it on Twitter, Facebook, and I will be posting the video here on YouTube on my channel. So if you want to be notified for that, just go ahead and hit the bell icon, subscribe or whatever, because it's the easiest way to actually just get notified. Otherwise, I hope you enjoy the deck, and I hope you enjoy playing Magic the Gathering as much as I do. Come on in for that face touch, and don't forget to share this with a friend. I want to touch their face.